Good evening, everyone. The board is running a little bit behind and should be joining shortly.
Hello, Sylvan community. How's everyone doing today? Am I doing well? Five weeks in, 6 weeks in, 6 weeks in. Yep. Go team.
With holidays coming though, right?
Yeah. I don't know. My eighth graders are acting kind of like sixth graders sometimes.
Uh,
It's actually pretty cute. They run around screaming. "Ah, ah, ah." It's adorable.
now they're outed in public.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So it's pretty
All
cute.
right, let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna wait just another minute for Mr. Raw. We're having a little bit of issues with our technology and internet, I know, so we might drop in, drop out. That's the nature of our online meetings these days. I'm going to go ahead and start, and I'm sure he'll jump on momentarily. We'll back into open session. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. We appreciate having you. This new electronic version allows us to continue to meet and allows more people to participate, and that's really the goal. I did notice that the executive order by the governor only goes through September 30th of this month, so I imagine we'll hear if that's amended again due to the Delta variant, and if that's extended, we'll let you know. But as of right now, that's the last approved date for our virtual meeting, so we'll give you more information as we have it. I'll go ahead with item number 4 with our board president announcement that in accordance with board policy, this announcement is to advise all attendees that tonight's board meeting is being recorded. Persons wishing to address the board on any agenda or non-agendized item must fill out a speaker card, and the directions on how to do that are attached to the agenda. I would like to report out of closed session that direction was given to staff regarding all matters. We will be going back into closed session to finish that up after this meeting. And I would also like, as we move on to item 6, the adoption of the agenda, to make sure that when we adopt the agenda, it's, sorry, hang on, that it will be as amended with the personal items on the consent agenda. So that would be amended in your motion to approve and adopt the agenda. So looking for motion.
Make a motion to adopt and approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey, second by Mrs. Talcott, and roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board Member Raw, I see he's still absent.
Okay.
Board President Miyakawa,
Aye. Mrs. Lindsay, I don't know if you know, but I can't see you. So,
You want to see me?
well, I'll need to, if you need to ask a question or make a comment.
Okay, when we get to that point.
Okie dokie. All right, very good. We'll go on to our Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone would please stand and face your nearest flag and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's also a little tricky when you have different sound bites going on that. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the communications portion of our agenda. Looking for any written communication.
I did receive one. Let me check my email really quick one last time.
Okay, that's on public participation though, right, Wilma?
I'm sorry,
No,
getting
you're
ahead of
good.
myself.
No, it's okay, you're good. I was just checking that very thing. Mr. Frederickson, do we have any written communication? I don't have my electronic agenda.
Sorry,
Sorry.
he's muted, but he said that there's none at this time.
Okay.
We're on a roll here tonight. Actually, no, there are no written communications.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much. I'm pulling up my electronic agenda too, so that will help. Then we'll go ahead to 8B, which is our public hearing CSEA initial proposal for 2021-22 contract negotiations. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing, but if I understand the rules under our electronic meetings, that would have been submitted previous, correct? And did we receive any public comment for this public hearing on the CSEA initial proposal, Velma?
CSEA.
We have not received any public comment on either of the public hearings this evening.
Okay, so as a formality, then I'll open and close the public hearing on CSEA's initial proposal. And the next one is the public hearing on Sylvan Union School District initial sunshine proposal for CSEA. That one would be open and closed in this formal setting, but no public comment was submitted at this time.
Mrs. Miyakawa, this is Mrs. Peterson. I'm sorry to interrupt. I do
No.
want to make, yes, I'm sorry. So on the SUSD proposal to CSEA, there is one change, which is our current expiration date for our current collective bargaining unit is 2023 and not 2021. Our successor agreement was approved by the board last year. So on the board agenda, it states 2021 and it's 2023
Got
with that change. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Miyakawa.
Okay,
Do we have to vote to amend that?
I don't know.
I think it would be a good idea to vote to amend item.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so the motion's been made to amend the date that's currently listed on the agenda as June 30th, 2021 to the same date in 2023. Is that correct? Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, motion was made by, sorry, was that Cindy?
Yes, that was me.
And the second was made by Holly. Let's just go ahead and do a quick roll call on that.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Raw. Oh,
You're
he's
muted, Mr.
muted,
Raw.
but I see him.
You're muted.
Okay, what am I voting on?
There's an incorrect date listed on the Sunshine proposal to CSEA. It was listed on the agenda as 2021 and it should be 2023. So we're just making that change.
That's fine. Yes. Sorry, I'm having internet issues.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ms. Peterson. Appreciate that catch. Okay, very good. Let's go ahead with 8D, public participation. Velma, do we have anything for that?
So I have one this evening. It's from parent Arturo Archiega. Hi, Velma. Below is my concern for today's board meeting. Thanks for reading my previous concerns. Again, I am advocating that masks be removed from K-12 students because it does not make sense all of them to have them on during class instruction. All restaurants are open and have dine-in. In order to eat, you must take off your mask. Does COVID-19 magically stop floating around when a mask is taken off? So when students are in the cafeteria and remove their mask to eat, does COVID-19 stop from floating around? I recently saw a video of a teacher that taped a mask to the student. This is extreme. As a parent and a teacher, I would never do such act. And I should never ever hear my own children say that their teacher taped masks onto their face because they're not wearing it correctly. I will take action if that occurs. The link to the video is attached, so I'll share the email with you. Our own governor made rules of masking indoors and then gets caught eating indoors and not socially distancing at the French Laundry restaurant while every restaurant was not allowed indoor dining. He did not follow the science and did not follow his own rules. COVID-19 has had a cure, treatments for the past year. It is, I'm going to butcher this one, ivermectin. Oh, he was plasma, to name a few. So why is this pandemic being treated like there is no cure unless you are vaccinated? But now the vaccine doesn't work and you need a booster according to CDC. Children do not need a vaccine that is not foolproof. Parents should have choice in making a decision for their own children to be vaccinated or not, just like before all this COVID-19 exaggeration happened. If this mandate is put in place in the future, I will pull my children out of the district. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Velma. Thank you, Mr. Archega, for writing into the board. Let's go ahead with our information and discussion portion of our agenda with our superintendent's update that has to do with compliance along these lines. Mr. Frederickson.
Yeah, it does seem like most of our attention these days does revolve around COVID and the impacts. And so my report tonight, again, we have a lot of wonderful things going on in the district. I always want to start with that. But what I find when we have these meetings, usually I feel like I need to be addressing the most current and most pressing matters. So please know when I give these reports, it's not that I couldn't report about all the great things our staff are doing for our kids and some of the visits we've observed. I look forward to those times again when we can focus on those kind of reports. But right now, some of the things I want to talk about are more urgent, and there are things that are coming up, and they get very complicated because there's so many changes and there's so many different guidance reports that come out at different dates. So what I wanted to start out with was just talking about a little more detail, the August 11th public health officer order, and it was pertaining to vaccine verification for workers in schools. And that is an upcoming mandate that our district has been very busy preparing for. And what I want to do is give you an update on that and then tie in some other things that are impacting this, the impact of students being quarantined when there's a positive case, and the type of testing that could go into a modified quarantine. All that ties in. So I've been working on trying to mesh this together to try to help make a little sense of this. But let me first of all talk about the vaccination verification for our workers. One with that, all workers in schools, and they actually don't call them employees, they actually call them workers. And that was in the language, and just ensuring anybody that is doing any work in the district, it applies to them. I think that's why they use that terminology. There's a lot of questions about what kind of proof do they need to provide. So before this order came out, they could just let the district know, hey, I've had it or I haven't, or I declined the state. With this new order, it does require documentation, proof of vaccination. And there's basically 5 or 6 ways you can do that. One is with your COVID-19 vaccination record card, and you actually have to have a copy of that provided. You can show a photo of the vaccination card. It can either be a photo on a separate document, or it can be stored on an electronic device or phone. So I think what they're trying to do with this is trying to make it as easy as possible for people to show proof with this. If you can provide documentation of a COVID-19 vaccination from a healthcare provider. So if you didn't have your card, you could go to your healthcare provider, and if they had record that you had gone in and had the vaccine. And when I talk about it's fully vaccinated, that means it's 2 doses for 2 of them of the Pfizer and the Moderna. I can't believe I can't pronounce it. Moderna. Yes, and 1 for the Johnson & Johnson. You can provide a digital record, includes a QR code, and you can find that through the state website, and many people are able to use that. And that QR code can be scanned, and it provides all the information that is necessary. And then documentation of vaccination from other contracted employers who follow these same guidelines. So down the road, if they've already provided that documentation, they came from another school district, let's say, and they have that on record, we could use that as verification. So there's a lot of ways that people can show their proof of vaccination. And those are clear guidelines. We have to accept all of those as part of the order. The other part of the order is that the district must have a plan in place for tracking verified worker verification status. And I got to give it to our personnel department. And I appreciate the board last year. You approved us using the Informed K-12 documentation system, that workflow. And we actually designed using that software to verify. And again, it takes electronic copies, and it actually is working very well. So our HR department worked with the representatives there to develop that template, and we are using that. We've been collecting verifications in this form for at least several weeks. And in fact, I'll talk about the numbers here in just a minute. We've actually, at this point, everything should have been turned in. The deadline was last week. And so we still have some employees who have not submitted their documents. So I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but I wanted to give the board just one, we have met that requirement. We have a system, we're following up on it, and we're documenting it. Looking at our current numbers, the number of vaccinated, fully vaccinated employees that have submitted is 573. So we've had 573 employees submitted. That's encouraging. That's more than what we had when we were just doing the just giving us the information about a month ago. So that's better. Now, on the unvaccinated, these employees have actually designated that they are unvaccinated. There's 225. And then we're still waiting. We've received no response from 149 employees. So under the unvaccinated, there's very few that have, where you require 2 doses. Some people have had 1 dose but haven't had their 2nd dose. They would still be considered unvaccinated, but that's taken into account. But there's only very few employees. So when you think we're looking at close to 1,000 employees, we're close to 60% that have verified. Now, when we get into some of this other discussion, when I talk about the impact of this and the requirement for testing, you're going to see how the impact of the numbers of those who are vaccinated and those who are not vaccinated will have on the implementation of the district, of what the district does. It's made it very challenging for us without having these numbers to go out and find solutions for that, because we didn't know how many employees we are talking about who would have to be tested. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that right now. So for unvaccinated employees, they're required to go through at least weekly PCR testing and antigen testing. So that is a significant requirement on the district, a significant expense on the district. It's a big deal. And it's going to take, like I said, the more employees that you have that are unvaccinated, the more impact it has on the numbers you're going to have to deal with as far as cost and testing. So the deadline is October 15th. So, we're down to 1 month to be in total compliance with this. And I'm going to now go into the whole testing idea, what the work we're doing there. But I want to talk about, first of all, what are the key areas of focus that our district has been dealing with here regarding testing, because it's more than just the public health order. That's only one little element. The other element we're dealing with, well, so number one priority is how to provide weekly testing for unvaccinated workers. So I just talked about that. The second is how to address the impact of positive COVID-19 cases and the quarantines at our school sites. That's a whole different category, but it's another major impact of what's going on in our school over the last month in our schools. And so when we look at that, we want to look at what is the amount of time and effort on our current site, on the site's resources to do contact tracing, communicate with the families and staff, and monitor the large volume of cases. So that's a key issue we have to seek a solution for. The second is, how can we reduce the time that students are absent from class due to close contact quarantines? And do we look at solutions of providing testing for those students? Because a part of the quarantine, the modified quarantine process, is that if a student could take a test, they could and were not positive, they could remain in class. But they have to be tested, I believe it's every 3 days or twice a week. Carrie is the expert on all that. But yeah, so right now we're not offering testing. And I want to make sure that the board understood there are some districts that are doing that. Many of them are unified school districts. And this is the same type of testing that these districts started last spring because they had athletes. And in order for the athletes to be able to participate, they had to go through weekly testing. So they had already ordered the kits, they got trained and certified to be giving the tests. So a lot of those districts have a quantity of tests already in stock that they're using now for their COVID testing of the students for quarantine. So most of the smaller districts that didn't have CIF rules and the athletic part of it, they weren't doing the testing. So I want to give the board an update on how we're looking at these solutions, okay, or what solutions we're looking for this. Several options. One option is that we could contract with an outside agency to provide the whole gamut of contact tracing, communication, monitoring, and testing, or a portion of it. So we have reached out to 3 companies, and we're expecting our final proposal by Thursday from the 3rd company that we looked for. So let's just know in general, it's very expensive. It's very, very costly. They give us the price per test. They also will provide us what costs it will be for personnel to administer testing and the contact trace. So we will have those bids at the end of this week. The other solution is we can choose to participate in the Binax testing that is being offered by CDPH. And we're running parallel with both of these options right now. We've already jumped on board, and one of the agenda items tonight is the MOU with CDPH. That was one of the first hoops we had to jump through to even get into the conversation. Today, 3 of us, believe it or not, this is how strange things are. To be able to participate in this, you are basically certifying that your school is now a laboratory. It is officially a laboratory. And we are actually, 3 of us were trained, hands-on training today with Binax kits online. And we actually took the kits, we set them in there, we tested them for, not compliance, what is it? Quality control. I got 100% on my test, so did Didi and Carrie. So the 3 of us will be laboratory, what do we call ourselves? Technicians. We're laboratory technicians very soon. We felt like we had to go this option because 1, the tests are free. But the administering of the tests are not free. And it's very labor intensive. It was a weird experience going through that training today. And the protocols that you have to follow, and how are you going to administer that to possibly 300 to 400 staff members on a weekly basis and offer to students. And we've been averaging, Carrie, what would you say averaging students going out on quarantine, modified quarantines?
Oh, for that first month, we estimated that there were almost 1,200 students that were close contact. I would have to do a little bit more determination of those close contacts, how many opted for the modified quarantine. But I know many of our families did because they did not want to miss out on that instructional time.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but I thought you could at least give a ballpark.
Mhm.
And I know it's a lot. That's why we're talking about 1,200 already. So we're moving along because we've got this deadline. We're moving along with parallel tracks right now, trying to be lined up because we can't be left wanting in 1 month because we have to be ready to go. So one of the things that we are doing too is we're looking at hiring additional classified employees that can be at the sites to help with, one, we know even if we don't do the testing, we have to have more support for all the contact tracing, all the communication, and the monitoring. Our sites have been pretty much overwhelmed since the beginning of school with this. And I don't know, we can be positive and think that it's going to trend downward. Not seeing that right now. So we need to move forward with that. We're looking at not creating a new job description for that, using the existing job description to get some of those staff at the school sites. We're also looking at needing to create a position that monitors all this, the amount of compliance, just the example of what we went through today in that training, that's just one small component. And this is an item that's on the board agenda tonight for a job description. We're not looking to hire that at this point. We just want to get the job description on there in case we have to move in this direction. We're trying to be proactive as possible to be ready for that time. And then we're also looking at just having enough staff to facilitate all of the above services. Again, it depends on whether we actually go down the route of the Binax testing or with the contracted services. So you see how I had to put all this into one big glob because it's all interconnected. And so we've got the like I said, the executive order that we have to follow, and not executive order, the
Health order.
Yeah, I always want to use the correct words. Oh, the health officer order, We got to make sure we're ready and prepared for that, but also start to address the impact that it's having on our kids and how much school they're missing because of this. It's really significant. There's a lot more going on with the whole independent study issue. There's some possible changes in the law that may, if the governor decides to sign it, but that's more about apportionment. It's more about us being funded for it. It's not going to help us with making sure these kids are in school. And so that's kind of the big picture. We will continue to keep the board up to date, but that's why I wanted you to know with some of these items that are on tonight's agenda, that's why they're there. That's what they pertain to. The other part of my update had to do with the public health guidance for K-12 schools. There was an update that came out on September 1st. And that was a long anticipated update dealing with extracurricular activities. That was a real catch-22 because there was a little wiggle room in there as far as, did you have to wear a mask? When would you have to wear a mask to participate in athletics? And that was a big issue. And so basically what they're saying is any indoor sport, mask must be worn for indoor sports unless wearing a mask during play has been determined to pose a choking hazard by well-recognized health authority. Well, what's happening with that, and it's mostly at the high school level, but we have some that are impacted by this, where schools may compete against another district, another school that's in another county or outside of our area, and the way people are interpreting it. There was some real clear guidance that came out to define what's considered doing a sport that is a choking hazard. It is for competitive cheer, gymnastics while on an apparatus, swimming, diving, water polo, and wrestling. So it shows you how political this is, that they had to get that detailed about what sports were considered with that. So like I said, we're not as impacted by that because we don't necessarily compete with districts outside of our area in our middle school sports, but it does apply to our current indoor volleyball, any sports that are indoors. They are required to wear a mask during play. Also came out with, there was a lot of questions about band and choir and the playing of musical instruments. They came up some real clear guidance there. They said for playing a musical instrument, that cannot be done with a face covering, and they specifically mentioned wind instruments. And then they put or as a choking hazard, but they didn't put any specifics with that. They either have to be conducted outdoors, or you can use a modified face covering and bell coverings when playing wind and brass instruments, and you have to still stay 6 feet apart. So I know Dr. Fong has been working with our sites, giving them guidance with that. The only other option they provided was if you weren't going to use one of those mitigating circumstances, those students, every student, whether they were vaccinated or not, if they were 12 and older, you would have to do weekly screening testing of all individuals, including those who were vaccinated. And so we haven't talked about that option, one, because we haven't been offering testing. And even if we were, that would be every kid in band would have to be tested weekly. And I think I'd have to look if it's, weekly, not twice a week. But that's the most recent guidance that we've received. I just want to make sure the board knew, because it does change frequently. And again, I also wanted you just to be aware of all the dynamics we're doing here at the district, trying to meet these different requirements and why some of those board actions are on there.
Okay, thank you very much. That was a lot. I'm looking for any clarifying questions from board members on any of the items that he mentioned? Like
I
he
have
said,
my hand up.
can't see you. He did say that a few of these items will be coming up later. So if you'd like to reserve a specific question for a later agenda item, you're welcome to do that. Mrs. Lindsay, would you like to go ahead?
I guess my question is that for clarification for anybody that would be listening in, could you clarify, Mr. Frederickson, that you keep saying these mandates, are these governor mandates? Are these state mandates? Are these federal mandates? What, so that people understand that we have certain laws that we have to follow, and it's not directive of the board necessarily, or where it's coming from. If you
Yeah,
could make that a little clearer.
Yeah, real clear that state public health officer order is an order. It's not an option. And we've checked with our legal counsel as well on this, and that we are responsible for following these orders, or the district would be in a position of liability for not following the recommendations of a health organization. So yeah, it's pretty clear that this is not a recommendation, suggestion. There's not any mays in there. These are basically shalls.
So for people listening, they understand that we as a board are following orders given to us that are laws, and that we must comply with them, or we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, the
Okay,
bottom
thank
line
you.
is that we're in the interest of safety for staff and students. And I think we've could safely assume that the honeymoon is over. I mean, we're all thrilled that our kids are back in school, but we're still wrestling with a very active virus. And so, trying to keep kids in school in a safe way, has tasked our administration and our teachers. And, this wrestle continues, and it to try and keep up with these orders, as well as keep everyone safe.
Mrs. Mayfield, may I follow up with real quickly? Mr. Frederickson, do the, oh goodness, it slipped right out of my head. In complying with these recommendations, or these rulings, when we are given different directions, do they modify it? Do they change it? Do they, it's very hard because like you said, we're given direction in one week, and then another week we're given totally different direction. And it's very difficult. Do you see that there going to be some help coming from these agencies and helping us in any way in the funding of these, or anything like that coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think what their response would be that we gave you both state and federal funding this last year. And also that we're offering you free Binax, free tests of Binax that's coming from the state. Because if we were going to, I would probably guess that if we were going to go out for services, contract for services, they would probably charge us between $80 to $100 per test kit.
Right.
So that, those are things that, that's why we're trying to weigh our options, and that the state is either saying you can use your COVID money to pay for those outside sources, or you can try to figure out a way to administer these free Binax tests.
Well, I do know that the tests that you can buy are not necessarily accurate. They could be, they're the ones like about $40 at the pharmacy, but the ones that you're talking about are the ones that are like 3 to 4 days turnover, 2 to 3 days, right? Not the speed ones.
Yeah, we have the speed. The Binax are the instant results, 15 minutes.
Are they?
Yep.
That's
But if it's a positive, I believe, and Carrie or Dee Dee can chip in, I believe if it's a positive, then that employee or student would have to take I don't know what you call them. Is it the PCR? Yep.
Okay.
Hey, I remember. Hey, yeah, I got it right. The PCR test, which is accurate. The vocabulary I've gained in the last year, I never would have dreamed. Certainly wasn't in my administrative classes I took.
You two are earning an honorary doctorate.
That's right.
COVID
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't see any further questions, so we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you for that, Mr. Frederickson, and for the work of your staff to try and get us ahead of the game to make this decision as possible. Our next item on the agenda for information discussion is our technology update, and I'm assuming that's Mark.
That is me. Good
All
evening, everybody.
Good
Time to
evening.
shift gears here, I guess, huh? It's a big one. So anyways, I wanted to start off with, the hot topic on my board, which is the Chromebook status, where the district is with Chromebooks and tentative plans moving forward. So the district currently has just under 7,900 students enrolled, and we have about 9,000 Chromebooks that are either labeled as in use or as available throughout the district. There's another 320 that we have in our technology department under repair status. So we do have plenty of spare devices. At the beginning of the year, the LMAs are responsible for assigning Chromebooks to students and classrooms, and for checking them back in at the end of the school year and wiping them down to ensure they're cleaned for redistribution. They also take in devices that are brought in with issues, and they're responsible for getting those devices into the tech department and for repair. The techs have also been prioritizing the repair of these Chromebooks this last week, and we were able to get over 100 devices back into the schools for availability for the children. And then the tech department is still working on physically redistributing the spare devices between schools to even out the distribution and meet the needs of those individual schools. Let's see here. The first year, this is the first year the district has handled this quantity of Chromebooks from check in to check out. So we're still working to fine tune and refine a lot of the process. According to the technology refreshment plan, there's about 2,100, 2,150 that will reach end of life in the 22-23 school year and will need to be replaced. There are also another 104 devices that are marked as stolen and obsolete or lost that are outside of those numbers. So those are just an additional amount that'll need to be replaced. We're still assessing the current staffing needs to be able to handle this increased inventory process and the increased tech usage district-wide. So it's kind of an ongoing process of gathering data and planning. So that's where the current status is of our existing Chromebooks now. The next item I wanted to talk about was the Chromebook insurance. This is the first year that the implementation of the board approved district-backed insurance for those devices the students take home. So it's now owned by us solely. We don't pay another company or anything for this insurance. We have collected more than $21,000 in Chromebook insurance revenue at $25 a student so far. And actually the window is closed, so that number shouldn't really change too much from now. The middle schools and independent study students are the primary buyers of this insurance, since they're the ones who are currently taking their devices home for use. The money we collect from this will be utilized by the district to pay for the cost of repair and replacement of damaged or lost and stolen equipment. Our fiscal services department is developing a coding system so that we can monitor the cost of repairs throughout the year and kind of compare it to our income. And as far as Chromebooks, that's kind of where that's all the information I have for Chromebooks at this time. One other update I wanted to give everybody was about the district phone lines. We have a positive improvement happening shortly that includes the district phone lines. We're scheduling a district-wide upgrade of the phone lines from analog POTS lines to digital PRIs. This gives us a lot more open lines, including dedicated 911 lines for the sites and improved call quality for outside calls. This upgrade is provided as part of the services that we pay DataPath for managing our phone systems. The first phase of this project will start onto DO on September 23rd. And the remaining sites will be scheduled throughout October and should be finished by the end of October. Currently sites now, as they stand now, they have analog lines around 2 to 4 lines per site, which means if any more calls come in, then, a couple of calls, then they get a busy signal. And this includes the, open lines for 911 calls. So we're really excited about this because post-project will have about 46 shared lines throughout the district and 2 dedicated lines that are reserved for 911 calls per site. So that concludes my technology update for tonight.
Thank you. Can I ask you right now, is it Favela or Favela? So
It's Favela.
Favela. Okay, very good. All right, Mr. Favela, thank you very much. Do I have any questions, follow-up questions from the board regarding technology? Mr. Raw?
And Mrs.
Yeah.
Lindsay.
Right. So I'm not sure I completely understand how the self-insurance works. So if you could just give me I know how self-insurance works, but I'm trying to get my numbers to crunch. If every family paid 25,000 or $25 for their Chromebook, that'd be 200,000. So we only have 20,000. So explain how we get revenue, how the insurance works.
So right now the insurance is just being offered to the students that are taking their devices home. So it's basically our 3 middle schools and our independent study students. Of all those students, about 840, 850-ish of them have purchased the insurance. And that, $25 times 850 it's a little bit over $21,000. I was kind of giving a round number. So,
Right.
And the students that didn't purchase the device, it kind of falls under, previous years, how it's always been where, they're sent a bill for, the damage. I guess, that's how it's worked before. It'll kind of be handled in the same manner as it's been previously.
Okay, so are you suggesting, we're smirking, are you suggesting it's the same type of bill that food services sends for the kids who walk through the food line and buy a lunch and then we're just held on the hook for it? Is that what you're saying? Because if I understood correctly, you had was it 400 damaged, lost, stolen, something devices? So I'm wondering, did any of those hundreds of families pay for the damage that they did to the devices? Have we ever collected on any of those?
So it was 104 devices that were marked as it was either stolen, lost, or obsolete or damaged. So previously, with the previous insurance that we used, all of our repairs were handled in-house. So the insurance was not utilized to pay for any of that because of the process that it had to go through was more efficient to get the devices back out by having our techs in-house repair. I can't speak previously how money was collected or if it was, I wasn't here. But yeah, it kind of goes the same way as from my understanding, as a lost library book. It goes on in their record in our inventory system.
If I could chime in, I had a conversation with Mrs. Reed on this before last year, just looking at this as an option. It wouldn't be any different than if a family purchased this from an outside insurance company because it's always been voluntary. Families don't have to buy this. So same thing, if a family didn't buy it and had damage, we would just invoice them regardless of whether it's our insurance or somebody else. So that aspect really doesn't change. There's only so much we can do about that piece of it. We can bill and then, try to work with the family to get payment on that.
So this was a topic of the board for quite some time, when we were trying to say, does the one-to-one devices for, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. I mean, I don't even know where to go on this. I mean, 100 obsolete or lost devices, I mean, that's like over $30,000. And families are not held accountable for that. I'm because I know we went to self-insurance this year, but that's a lot of money. And is anyone else bothered by this, or is this just something
Me.
that irritates me?
Me.
That, oh, okay. So Mrs. Lindsay and I will go out to dinner together about this. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about this, Mr. Frederickson? What's your thoughts on, I'm not here to put you on the spot because you're the leader of this tribe here, but we got all this expensive equipment. We're handing it out like candy, and no one's being held accountable if they mistreat the property of the district. I mean, there is no accountability here. We don't hold anything over their head if they destroy or lose or harm our property. It just doesn't seem right to me.
Well, this is a topic that's been going on for years in the whole educational world. When we shifted to individual devices for kids and shifted our curriculum to digital curriculum. It used to be and I spent so many years at the site level trying to deal with textbooks that were destroyed or not turned back in. And we would use techniques, doing little competitions, trying to get them turned in, or we're gonna not let you get your report card. Some people tried doing that, and you can't do that, of course. But you were doing anything you could to try to recoup your losses. And so it was our decision to go digital and to use the Chromebooks. And that's part of, when you look at the overall tech plan, it's almost at what point do you build in attrition because of things like that? I think we've looked at the insurance, aspect. It looks like we've tried a couple of different ideas with that. How do I say it? I just want to be very clear, be politically correct. We're at a stage in public education, if there is something that students are required to have and they lose it, or it's a loss. It is a lot. Trying to recoup anything like that, it's shifted. It's really shifted because it's considered essential for learning. And I think we do need to look long range about what are ways we can, help teach kids how to handle it more carefully and how to be more responsible with it, but also build into it just understanding that there's going to be a percentage that are not going to be paid for. I think a lot of families, they did pay the $25. I mean, you got 800 of them. But I think most people know if the computer is broken and not returned, it's really, you're relying on people to responsibly pay for it. And some are not going to, or don't have the resources to do it.
But we're missing, well, the concern I have with that is that I hear what you're saying, and I know that you're uncomfortable coming right out and saying something that I know what you're trying to say in a bit of a covert way, but I guess what I'm saying is if we don't have accountability, that's an important thing in human nature that we should be teaching children in public education, is accountability for our own behavior. If we absolve people from accountability of their own behavior, I think we're doing a disservice. So for one of 5 board members, I am very much in favor of creating policies or even consequences associated with people of no accountability, or no accountability. If I even said that right, I felt like I went in a circle on that. But I believe in the principle of accountability. And so I don't know if I can bring 2 other board members to my side of the equation that want to teach accountability in the school district, and that there should be consequences for lack of accountability. It seems strange that just a few years ago, if my son didn't turn in his homework on a certain day, he spent a week on the wall and lost recess. There was accountability taught. My son even talks about that accountability. And yet now we can take a $300 or $400 device, and if Johnny decides to, you know, in a fit of rage, stomp it out on the ground and it turns into pulverized glass, that no foul, no loss on this. I'm not uncomfortable. So maybe I, in the future, with an agenda item, see if I can get 2 board members to swing with me to put consequences on kids who are not accountable for their own behavior. So maybe that's the way, and maybe I'll be the lone wolf. I don't know. But I'm not comfortable of just saying, oh, well, Johnny doesn't have to be responsible for the assets of the taxpayers that live in our geography.
Yeah, and again, I just want to clarify, I don't think we have that attitude of, well, I think what we need to do, because I'm kind of put on the spot with this. I know there are efforts that our sites make to be hold kids responsible. I know that's happening, but I can't speak to it right now. But I do think we should, as a board, have another discussion. We need to go back and talk about technology again, because that is what continues to change and evolve. And if you're not having current conversations, we're going to be behind the 8 ball with anything with technology. So what I would advise in this topic, and I don't disagree with you, Mr. Raw, about people needing to be accountable and being responsible, you know, but I think we know that's part of the reality we're facing with the cost of this. But I think we can have some good discussions about it in a productive way.
Thank you.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I put my $60 damaged book out there when my daughter damaged hers last year. So there are people that pay. That helps you sleep at night. Yes.
Good job. Good job. Thank you.
Mrs. Miyakawa?
Yeah, after Mrs. Talcott, did you have?
Okay, I didn't know if you saw my
Oh,
thing.
she raised her hand. No, I don't, because your face isn't on there. Go ahead, Cindy.
I was just saying that I paid my dues with my daughter too.
Oh, gotcha. There you go. There's 2. All right, Mrs. Lindsay, go ahead.
Yes, my question is on the report, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but somewhere in the very, very back of my mind, I remember when we spoke with Mrs. Reed and we purchased a lot of those Chromebooks, we purchased extras just to cover the damages. Did those ever show up anywhere on any of the paperwork? I'm sorry, I can't say your last name, Mark. I'm just gonna say Mark.
Yeah, it's part of the numbers that we gave, part of the 9,000 Chromebooks that are out there that are in use and available. It's part of those numbers. So yes, we did see the extras that were bought.
So we have used them then.
They are in production, in the revolving. With these Chromebooks, they're always revolving, right? If a kid pops a key off or just has an issue and brings it into the LMA. The LMA doesn't troubleshoot it right there. They just hand them another one, and then they troubleshoot the Chromebook afterwards and then send it into the tech department if they need. So these Chromebooks are, moving all around constantly. So yes, those extra Chromebooks are here. They are accounted for and they are in the rotation.
So they've already covered the 100 whatever you have now in repair, or 300 or whatever you have in repair right now.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Pavella. We appreciate the update and look forward to continued discussions as we march forward on technology. We'll go ahead with our safety and facilities updates, checking with that. Ms. Aguilar, did you have anything you wanted to say, or would you like to field questions? Where are you?
Yes, good evening. I do have a couple of updates.
Okay,
for the board.
go ahead.
So just a quick little update on shade structures. We did finish going to each one of the sites and doing the site walks to discuss possible locations if a site were to have a shade structure added. And so we finished that up end of August with the architect. And the architect is working on compiling that data, putting that together on site maps, and presenting the initial information. We'll be discussing that. We have a board facility subcommittee meeting tomorrow, and then I'll be sharing that out with the rest of the board in the Friday update. Any information shared there will be shared in that Friday update. So that's pretty much where we're at, and just looking at, starting to look at what those options could look like. And they're working on preliminary pricing for that. So like I said, that'll be, I haven't received that. The architect will be reviewing that tomorrow, and that'll be shared out. And then I have an update, a kind of non-update, but an update, I guess, on the U-Stack lockers, which continues to be, topic that I'm following and trying to keep status on. So we were scheduled to receive those August 30th. They did not come in. And I'm not sure why not. I have not received an update yet. I've reached out multiple times to try to get a more recent update, and I have not. So I will be more aggressively pursuing information and calling. I've already put a few calls in and haven't heard back. So I'll be working my way up my contacts and reaching out to find out what the next scheduled date is. I've also been in contact with site administration, Principal Deanne, just letting her know where we're at, that we're still waiting. And she's been in contact with her teachers and putting together plans of how to temporarily work through this and have students dressing out. So they're planning to do that and start that next week. So that's where we're at. As soon as I hear something, I will share with you as well as with them to give us a updated time frame on that. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Lizette. Any questions from the board?
Yes.
Go ahead, Miss Lindsay.
Yes, as Mrs. Aguilar, with our prior facilities directors, she and I had quite a few rounds concerning the fact that we cut down so many trees in our district. And is there a place or a availability around these straight shade structures to be able to plant trees at a distance that are not going to necessarily uproot the foundation around the structure, but that we could also use some natural shade? Everything seems to be just like concrete with a shade structure, and even that is hot, so I was hoping that maybe we could think about maybe investing in some trees.
I'm happy to continue to have that discussion and look into that as an option, and just see structurally around, if I hear you correctly, around a shade structure, what kind of distance would be recommended, maybe by the architect, if that's something that we want to pursue and look into as an option.
Well, it's not only aesthetically pretty, but it's also naturally cooling, and it will keep the shade structure itself, maybe not for a few years, but it will keep the structure itself cooler. So it seems to me a fairly inexpensive way of solving future problems down the road, which we used to do a lot. We had a lot of trees, and we cut a lot of trees down. So I think maybe it's time we thought about replacing some of those. So just a thought. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll go ahead. Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. We'll go ahead with the action items on our agenda. The first one being approve the 2020-2021 unaudited actual financial report. Wow, say that one 3 times fast. Mr. Frederickson, no, that's not you. Hang on. Sorry. Oh, Ms. Aguilar.
I stepped away for a second and you caught me.
Don't blink.
Thank you. Mrs. Sandoval will speak to this, and then I will chime in to add a few comments. So Mrs. Sandoval, after much work from her and her team, has closed out the 2021 year. Mrs. Sandoval.
The 2021 fiscal year covers the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021. The unaudited actuals financial report presents the final revenue and expenditures for all funds for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. Each fiscal year, the district budget is developed to ensure the goals of our local control accountability plan are accomplished. Expenditures support goals and actions addressed in the LCAP. The Board of Trustees has been provided with fiscal year 2021 an audited actuals report that includes various standardized account code structure, fund forms, and supplemental forms. You've also been provided with a fund balance and cash balance report. We can go over that too if you want to discuss that further. The fund balance column denotes balance sheet accounts such as accounts receivable, prepaid amounts, liability amounts, and the fund balance calculation. The cash balance account balance is basically the liquidity of the fund, cold hard cash. And for the first time in our financial report, will include Fund 8, which is our ASB activity. So that was being in compliance with GASB 84. Our unrestricted general fund has an ending fund balance of $16,029,388. This amount is 1.86 million more than our estimated actuals at the May revised at the 21-22 budget development. And so at this time, Mrs. Aguilar, you would like to add any further to the discussion, please do so.
Yes, and Mr. Fabella, if I could do a share my screen, I want to share the document that Mrs. Sandoval just referenced.
Sure thing. Give me 1 second.
Thank you. Usually it just lets me, so I didn't.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, there it is. So this was one of the reports that Mrs. Sandoval referenced and specifically made note of this amount right here, the 16,029,000 unrestricted fund balance, and how that amount is about 1.8 million higher than what we had at the estimated actuals for the 2021 year when you approved the 21-22, the current year adopted budget. At that time, you know, we bring you budget numbers for the upcoming year, as well as what we estimate will end the year at. And so at that time, that was an estimate. Now we have the unaudited actuals that are just pending going through the regular audit process. So this is 1.8 million, and this is really what I want to kind of discuss a little bit further because this is probably, there's a lot of numbers and a lot of great information. But when we talk about in our discussions and budget study about our reserves and looking at that and the board target of keeping that at about 10%, this is where that comes from, that unrestricted fund balance. And so that 1.8 million, that is really budget savings at the end of the year, now that we've trued everything up and balanced everything. And so that's definitely positive news. We always want to have savings compared to what we had estimated or budgeted versus the other way around, right? Having spent more than we anticipated. So, sorry, I was trying to make my screen a little bigger here. So that is positive news. And I'll just make note that about 1.3 million of that is primarily due to a reduced special ed expenditure. So that's on the special ed side. We track that, as you know, all separately, and that's part of a contribution that the general fund makes to the special education program. And so that was definitely the bulk of that 1.8 million. The other $500,000 or 500,000 is about less than 1% of our total expenses, which is really good looking at our overall, how we did compared to our budget or estimated actuals. So while that's great news as we close out the year, I just want to kind of also give a little bit of context as we already start thinking about what we're already thinking about next year, right? Thinking about budget studies, going into, discussion with our partners on where we're at. We will be updating these numbers, of course, as we work on our first interim that comes to the board. But one of the other a couple things to keep in mind about this positive news is that these are savings that will fall to our bottom line and kind of be a one-time additional money that's in our savings or our reserve, right? So kind of like a tax refund. If you get a tax refund, you get this unexpected, one-time money, and then you can either save it or you can, go out and spend it on something, fun and exciting. So this is not additional money that we have year after year that we can count on. This is one-time savings. And as we do look at very important factors, we consider what our financial picture is in not only in the current year, but more so even in the out years, next year and the year after, is what our enrollment is looking like. And we've had a little bit of discussion on this, some information in a Friday update, I believe, about you've been seeing the enrollment numbers on what that looks like. And we are about 200 students under what we were last year. And while we, in our budget and in our projections, while we have been projecting that we would have declining enrollment, this is greater than what we anticipated by, I would say, about 50-ish students, which equates to about 500,000. So just when we look at, the many things to consider in looking at updates and our financial picture and our planning going forward, that's another important point that the board should be aware of, and all of our partners and community should be aware of, that, we, as well as so many other districts, are feeling the impact of declining enrollment and the potential financial impact that has as we consider planning and being able to maintain so many of the things we have in place, and we have added, particularly with COVID and that one-time funding, which is a whole nother discussion that we've had several times. So I just wanted to, I don't want to doom and gloom on the good news of, we've had this savings and we closed out the year in a better place, but just share all of the information that we have that helps shape that picture going forward. So I'm happy to take any questions, and or Mrs. Sandoval, if there's anything else that I left out that you'd like to add.
I just want to add that Christy White Incorporated, our auditor, will be conducting preliminary fieldwork virtually in the last week of September. So we will already be starting the audit process.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for the update and for some of the explanations that went along with it. Just making a note of that. Is there any board member that has any questions for either Ms. Aguilar or Ms. Sandoval? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the unaudited actual financial report.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Raw.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Talcott.
Was it Ms.
Mrs.
Talcott or
Lindsay.
Mrs. Lindsay?
Ms. Talcott raised her hand, and because I can't see Cindy still.
It's okay. It's all right. Give it to Mrs. Talcott. That's all right with me.
Mrs. Lindsay's camera shy today.
Okay.
I just figure that people don't need to be looking at my face.
So for roll call, Ms. Harvey? Do you see her?
Yeah, she's there.
Well, her camera's off, so
Her
she.
camera's off and she's mute. Maybe she had to run to the restroom. Come
Okay.
back.
Okay, Miss Lindsay,
Aye.
Miss Raw, Mr. Raw,
Oh, thanks. There you go. Aye.
Mrs. Talcott,
Aye.
President Miyakawa,
Aye.
Aye, I'm here. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry. I just-
Very good. Thank you very much. Motion carries. Oh, and I just lost my agenda. Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next action item, which is approving the budget revision. Wait, make sure I'm on the right spot. Yeah. Approve the budget revisions for the period from March 1st through June 30th. Ms. Aguilar, did you have anything to?
Actually, I'll let Mrs. Sandoval speak on this as well.
Oh, did I thought her in my head and I said your name.
Okay, we're a team.
The Board of Trustees was provided with budget revisions and explanations for the period of March 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the budget revisions for this period of time. Does the board have any questions?
Looking for clarifying questions from the board. Seeing none, I'm looking for a motion to approve the budget revisions.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey,
Second.
second by Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item is adopting resolution 2122, number 7 on GAN limit appropriations. Mrs. Sandoval.
Education Code Section 42132 requires that on or before September 15th of each year, the governing board of the school district adopt a resolution to identify the estimated appropriations limit for the current fiscal year 2021-22 and the appropriations limit for the preceding fiscal year 2021. The standardized account code software referred to as SACS calculates the GAN limit for us. So the GAN SACS supplemental form is attached to this item. It's recommended that the Board of Trustees adopt resolution 2021-22, number 7, GAN limit appropriations.
Thank you, Mrs. Sandoval. Looking for a motion to approve. This is an annual item. Motions.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah. Wait. Who's the first? I'm sorry.
Harvey or
Cindy.
Lindsay.
Yikes, I turn away. Okay, I'm gonna get the first to Mrs. Lindsay and the second to Miss Harvey. That work? Okay.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item is approving the Sunshine initial proposal from CSEA and Sylvan Chapter 73 for the 21-22 school year. Ms. Peterson.
Thank you. So presented for the board's approval is the Sunshine proposal to open negotiations for 21-22.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Raw, seconded by Ms. Lindsay. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item, I think it's still 10E, approve Sunshine initial proposal from Sylvan Union School District to CSEA and its Sylvan Chapter 73 for 21-22 school year.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Motion's been made by Mr. Ron, seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. All right, let's go ahead with our next item. Adopt resolution 21-22, number 5, week of the administrator, Mr. Frederickson.
Right. Well, this is, even though this isn't until October, I think it's good that we're passing it right now, just to give some acknowledgement to the hard work of the administrators in this school district. And again, this is the, it's the annual thing, the second full week of October that we do this, but I do just want to commend, I see some hearts being done, some clapping, and everybody's been working hard, but I just want to acknowledge this group, especially, coming off of the COVID year we had last year with the anticipation that, hey, we're coming out of this thing. And then the very first week of school, just to be inundated with the number of positive cases that came out. And the impact it's had on so many staff and those administrators, they've had a shortage of staff due to that. They've been out there dealing with supervision, trying to manage that. They've been teaching classrooms when there's a shortage of subs. And yet they still are continuing to want to do what's right for kids. And it's not just site level, there's district level administration as well. But I appreciate the board passing this resolution, even though it's in October. I want them to know we appreciate them year round for the work they're doing. And I'm glad, and I recommend we approve this.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Mrs. Lindsay
With gratitude, I'll second that.
and seconded with gratitude from Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
With gratitude, aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Ditto. Hi.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Okay, the motion carries from the board on behalf of the board. Just to thank you to all admin at whatever level you are, and for really, anyone in education always goes the extra mile for kids, but this year and last year have been not only no exception, but have been extra. There's been extra efforts made to make this a viable solution for kids. So our appreciation to each of you for making that happen at your sites and in the district. Very good. Thank you very much. We'll move on to 10G, adopting the resolution 2122 number 6 for Red Ribbon Week. Mrs.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. October 23rd through the 31st of this year has been declared the National Red Ribbon Week. And this year's theme is drug-free looks like me. So the Sylvan Union School District would like to support that Red Ribbon Week and participate in various activities to promote lifestyles of no illegal use of legal substances and no use of illegal substances. So it's recommended that the board approves or adopts this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Albert. Looking for a motion. Motion's been made by Mrs. Lindsay,
Second.
second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Albert. Very good. We'll move on to 10H, approving the revised job description for child care coordinator. Mrs. Peterson, anything you want to say?
Thank you. Presented are both the former and updated and revised to reflect the current job duties and expectations for this position.
Very good, thank you. And that was sent also ahead of time, so at a Friday update. Is there any further questions on that item? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve the revised job description.
Make the motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey and seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, the motion carries. Thank you. Next item is 10I, approve the purchase of site safety radios. Ms. Albert.
Yes, thank you. So it's been a goal of mine since I started as the director for student services to ensure that sites had 100% radios across their campuses. So each year we've budgeted some money to purchase radios for the school sites to increase the numbers of radios per staff members, but we're still not at 100%. We feel that this is an opportunity to with COVID funds and a need across our campuses to purchase radios so that every area of the school site will have a radio. So every individual on a school site would have a radio. With the additional supervision that we're utilizing at this time and to ensure everyone, safe with their own supplies, we'd like to do that. So I went out for 3 bids because we determined that we're about 350 radios short to ensure that 100% of staff would have radios. I got 3 quotes, one from Bearcom, one from Raise Radio, and one from 10-4. And those quotes are attached. You'll see that Raise Radio came in just under 70, just over $70 more than Bearcom, and 10-4 was more than that. Bearcom is a company out of Sacramento. They did say that they would program the radios, make sure that they worked, and kind of send them all in one large box to us, and then we would distribute them out to our sites. Raise, we've worked with for a number of years, and Brian from Raise Radio actually goes out, delivers the radios, programs them, makes sure that they work, troubleshoots radios. If any office manager has an issue with the radio, they call Brian over at Raise. He comes over and troubleshoots, that lets us know, do we need a new radio? Is it just we need a new antenna? Is it just that they're not charging the radios correctly? And so it's my recommendation that we accept the bid from Raise Radio, because it's a difference of, like I said, less than $70. And the service they provide is worth much more than that.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions from the board? Just as a point of order for anyone in the audience, knowing that we try and submit our questions ahead of time to increase efficiency in our meetings, and those questions are attached to the bottom of the agenda. So if sometimes it feels like we're not asking questions or commenting, know that we've taken care of some of this ahead of time too. Mrs. Lindsay, did you have another question? Go ahead.
I did. I know that there's a reason, and please clarify it for anybody that might be listening and for new board members. The reason that we feel that we need these radios, each classroom has a telephone in it. So what is the purpose behind having every single person having a radio, Mrs. Albert?
Well, there's a number of potential safety concerns that we have. One is we have yard duties, we have custodians, we have nurses, we have paraprofessionals that are potentially not in classrooms on any given time, at recess, walking to and from classrooms. We have medically fragile students on our campuses, and you may or may not be in or outside of a campus, outside of a classroom and accessible to a phone system. Also, there are times, we do have a good phone system, and it's getting even better, as Mr. Fabella said, but there are times when our phone systems are not working. There's also times, in certain emergency situations where those phone lines are shut off. And so you would not have access to a radio. In situations where we have, fire drills going out or actual fire emergencies going out, lockdowns, those kind of things, you might not have access to a phone. So it makes sure that every single person has a radio that they can utilize as an extra safety precaution. And right now, at our latest count, we had one radio for every other classroom teacher. We did not have radios in our speech classes, our resource classes, our art, our music classes. We did not have them across our campus consistently. So we want to make sure that that's done.
Okay, and I appreciate that, and I understand that. Why were the people that are not privy to having phone accesses not the first people that had the radios? And secondly, do they carry them on their person at all times?
So students, paraprofessionals who have students who are medically fragile do carry them on their person at all time. Nurses do carry them on their person at all time. There's one with the office manager at all time. Now, there might be one radio for the office manager, but there might not be another radio for the attendance secretary or the registrar. And if those people have to go across the campus, they have no way to call unless they're sitting right next to their phone.
But that doesn't really answer my question, in that I don't understand I can understand it if you were doing it for emergencies, as you were describing. But I mean, the fact that they would have to go to a different area to get to a phone seems a little, I'm just wondering if we shouldn't just cover the people that are what we call our healthcare and emergency people, and then there's the use of the the one for every other classroom would be sufficient. I don't understand why every classroom, if they're not carrying them on their person at all times, what is the purpose of having them? I guess that's my question, because in their classroom, you're right, the phones might be cut off at times, but they would have access to another classroom, especially the way ours are built, that they can access each other quite easily. So,
Right. Well, not at all of our school campuses. So for example, like at Sylvan School, there aren't those center pods where they could actually share if it was every other classroom. So there are cases where you couldn't have access to one without potentially going outside and going around. It's just an opportunity, being that, use of COVID funds at this moment for something like safety radios is an allowable expense. And by purchasing a radio for each staff member on campus, then what I'll be able to do is to turn over the safety money that we talked about from the general fund. Each year the board has approved $100,000 for safety money. And so if we're able to then purchase radios for each school site, it's my plan then to allot around $3,000 to each school site based on ADA, a little more for those schools that have higher student numbers, or those who have less numbers will have a little less than that, so that they then can utilize that money to replace safety radios, to buy vests, to buy cones, whatever they need safety wise, to replenish safety buckets. And the board will no longer have to allocate $100,000 for safety funds. It will actually reduce the cost. I think when Lizette and I talked about it, I think it was even on here, we would end up giving back about $50,000 to the general fund if we're able to make this one-time purchase.
and that makes sense. Thank you very much, Mrs. Albers.
And I would just add, Mr. Rob, before you comment, I would just add that, we initiated this, if my memory serves, back with the incident with San Bernardino. And that's, in terms of just making sure our kids are kept safe with schools being soft targets. And so we've done as much as we could do up to this point. I think from what I understood of the backup material, it was to finish the process that we started those several years ago. And Mr. Ra, would you like to add? Or?
Yeah, so first of all, I like to be supportive of staff and decisions, but I'm having trouble on this one. Just a little brief history. We entered into the radio phase many years back. We spent a lot of money on the radios. We also spent a lot of money on the antennas and the extending of the antennas at the different school sites. We contracted with, I believe it was Ray's Radio, to do these antennas. But originally, the purpose of the radios was, if our phone systems went down, we would have a communication ability to communicate with all the different school sites, see what was happening. If there was lockdowns, we went through a phase of a lot of lockdowns that happened very repetitively for us, and that we would have these radios at all the school sites. Then we found out that the antennas didn't work, so we extended the antennas up and put a lot of money into it, all of which I supported. Then some time after that, we spent a very large sum of money on replacing the whole phone systems throughout the district. So although I appreciate the word safety, I think it's kind of moving a little bit out of beyond the area which we originally contemplated for the radios. I personally feel, and not that it just because it differs with your feeling doesn't mean that I don't love and support all of you. I just don't agree with this. I just think it's a redundancy. I think our phone system, which is brand new, is very adequate to handle most all emergencies. If our phone system does fail us, we still have a significant amount of radios throughout each school site that could allow for appropriate communication. And I really don't think that many teachers are going to be carrying these radios around with them. I know the necessary ones will, the principals and all the necessary ones. I don't want to go into the whole laundry list. So I'm sorry, I can't support on this one. It's a big ticket item. I think our money can be spent on other safety items that could enhance us even more. I have a few ideas on that, but and it's for the reason of, I think it's redundant for what we have, especially since we have the new phone system. And I just don't think it's going to be breaking down. And if it does, I think we have an adequate number of radios at each school site in case our phone system breaks down. So I think our go-to answer for emergency is our phone system, and our radios is backup, but just one little person's opinion. So again, I love being supportive, but I had a hard time on this one, especially since I have other ideas on other safety things in the district to spend money on that I could share with at another time.
Mrs. Miyakawa, may I jump on that real quick? Mr. Raw, my thought is that if I'm wrong, correct me, Mrs. Albers, that this money has to be spent by a certain time, if I'm correct. And in lieu of using our safety money that we have in savings for those things, those ideas that you might have, Mr. Raw, we can actually utilize the COVID money in this area because it falls under that category. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, that's my understanding, and Mrs. Aguilar would be able to chime in if that's incorrect.
I mean, if we have to use the money by a certain time, and I don't think that all things qualify to use that money. So I guess that's my question. What items could qualify other than these radios in this COVID situation?
Well, there are timelines around COVID funding. As far as what other things, I mean, we just have to explore what they are and how they would, meet that criteria if there were other things to consider as well. Could we come up with other options? I mean, likely there definitely could be other options. So yeah, I mean, I was just thinking of dismissal time, to be honest, having been out there and helping the beginning of the year when dismissal time is going on, especially right now with having wanting to have more separation, more gates, and those, they do not have all have radios and would definitely benefit from that, I believe, at dismissal time, like Mrs. Albert mentioned, at recess time, lunchtime. There's a lot of other times there's so much movement outside of the classroom. So that's just my 2 cents on that. But on the COVID funding, yes, there are timeframes and requirements for what's allowable.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey.
Thank you so much. I as a teacher in a classroom, if there's, let's say, a student passes out because they're hot or something, and this is purely hypothetical, and you pick up the phone and you call the office, it rings once, it rings twice, and then it might ring a third time, or you might go straight to voicemail because sometimes the office staff is busy answering the other phone on the other lines. And so having a radio in a classroom, I think, would be a really great benefit to teachers for those even one-off emergencies. I mean, I don't think it's so much of an edge case that it's worth. I think there's more edge cases available that are realistic, that this is money that would be really well spent. I think a lot of teachers would appreciate having a radio in the room where they don't have to then pick up the phone. It's like, no, just call right away. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's no other questions, I am looking for a motion to approve the purchase.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey, seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Raw,
No.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa. Are you there, Mrs. Miyakawa? Oh yeah, she is frozen.
I think she froze. Oh, there,
There she's
oh,
back.
there she is.
Oh, was I
She
frozen?
froze.
Am I back?
Yeah.
It just said my internet is unstable. That's good. That might be symptomatic of other things. Okay.
Say aye or nay.
Oh, mine was an aye. Did you miss my vote? Sorry. Okay, very good. So I'm trying to read my agenda over here and still watch what's going on. Okay, we'll move on to our item 10J, approved memorandum of understanding with Stanislaus County Office of Education for bus LVN. Ms. Albert, you're on a roll. Take it again.
That's me.
Oh,
Laura. So because it's a special ed student.
got it.
Okay, so this MOU is with Stanislaus County Office of Education for an LVN that works at John F. Kennedy School, where the student attends who's medically fragile. And so the student qualifies for specialized transportation per their IEP. And due to the nature of their health issues and their medical fragile situation, it's not safe for them to ride the bus without an LVN on the bus with them. So an LVN from JFK, which is run by SCO, Stanislaus County Office of Ed, will ride that bus to and from the house with the student daily. And we'd like to enter into an MOU to pay for that time. We currently don't have enough LVNs to cover that, and having someone drive to Ceres to JFK, come back, work in Sylvan, run back, get on the bus again. We don't really have anybody that could do that could accommodate us. So this is actually a benefit for us and a cost saving for us as well.
Very good. Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me again? I had another issue.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. Looking for a motion to approve the MOU for the bus LVN.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey and seconded by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey. Oh, she's muted, but I saw her say aye. Board Member Lindsay.
Aye.
Board Member Raw.
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Fong.
Mrs. Miyakawa, I think you
Yes.
need to wait till Mrs. Harvey can verbally say her
Aye.
aye. So it's
Thank you.
recorded. There you go.
Thank you.
It just needs to
Aye.
be recorded.
I understand. Yeah, valid point. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, super. With that, the motion carries on that, and we'll move on to item 10K, approve the MOU with Alliant International University, California School of Education. Ms. Wapel, is that you?
That's me. As you know, in the past, we've had MOUs with some of our local universities for interns, and with the teacher shortage, we've expanded our wings a little bit and have a teacher who would fit with the university, Alliant University, and would look to have you guys approve the MOU so we can continue to support our staff with having more opportunities for teachers.
Very good. Thank you very much. Looking for, did you have a question, Ms. Lindsay?
I
Or you
do. Where is the school located, Mrs. Wilhelm?
It is, I believe, in Southern California is where the campus is that this particular student or intern teacher is attending right now.
So how is that going to work? Is she
Well-
going to work up here?
Yes, the person lives here and it's an online program.
Oh, she's doing an online class. Okay. I see. Okay. All right.
Okay, very good. Looking for a motion to approve.
Make the
So
motion
moved.
to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey. I'll take a second. Mr. Rod, you want to do the
Yeah,
second?
that'd be fine.
Okay, second by Mr.
Board
Rod.
Member Harvey.
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay.
Aye.
Board Member Raw.
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is 10L. Approved contract for BMR for speech and language pathologists for the 21-22 school year. This is Dr. Fong.
Yes, so this contract is for BMR Health. They currently have found us 4 speech and language pathologists that we can contract with. We are in need of 4 because 2 that we currently have are doing virtual speech services. They are in other states, so the time frame in which they can be available is a little bit of a struggle for us for IEP meetings that may happen after school. In addition, they're not able to assess students because they're not here in person, and the assessments are not normed for virtual platforms. So we would replace 2 virtual speech and language pathologists with humans that would come and work in our schools with our students and be able to assess and provide service. We also would replace or fill a vacancy for someone who resigned last May that we have not been able to fill that vacancy at this time. And then the fourth speech and language pathologist would bring us in line with the ed code for caseloads for speech and language pathologists. We have some, it would provide them some relief because their caseloads are growing. Yes, Mr. Raw, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I did ask my question earlier, but just a statement. I think this is a necessity that, and it's an unfortunate necessity in order to be compliant with the law. It is out of my 5 years on the board, whatever it's been the largest number of outside contracted speech pathologists that we've ever had to do in any given year. If I'm wrong on that, I welcome a clarification on that. So as we approve this tonight, because it's something we have to do in order to deliver the services which we as a public agency are required to do, I would ask our superintendent to create a task force, if that's even possible, on specialized positions in our district that we need to look at to see what we can do to actively pursue finding people to fill vacancies in our district. So I would be happy to work with the superintendent, but we need to come up with a process so we can fill these vacancies so we don't have to use outside contractors in the future.
Thank you. Just as supporting of you in that, I have a daughter who's a college sophomore who started as a linguistics major, and I'm gently pushing her that direction if she's so she's in her third week of her first semester of classes, and we'll see if it sticks. But that might be, I try and encourage anyone I know that's the hot field to go into.
Absolutely. You have job security for sure. Also, we do work with some local universities that have programs, like UOP has a program, and we're always trying to recruit and, convince people that Sylvan's a place to be, because it's a wonderful place to work. And so we are always working on that, but they are tough to find, and the job market is hot. So when people graduate, they have their choice of anywhere they want to live in the state, they can find a job, or anywhere in the nation for that matter.
Yeah, that's true. Very good. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll look for a motion to hire currently in this, in using the BMR. Am I on the right one? Sorry. Yeah, BMR. Motion's made by Mrs. Talcott.
Second
by Mrs. Lindsay. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey.
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay.
Aye.
Board Member Raw.
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Roth, for your suggestion. Okay, item 10M, ratify Stanislaus County Interagency Agreement, ESSA, Education, Stability, and Transportation for Children and Youth in Foster Care. Mr. Frederickson.
Got it. Thank you. I'll be covering this item. This is a new contract as part of the Every Student ESEA Title I requirement to provide coordinated services for transporting foster youth that may have resided in a school and then be relocated. They do have a right to be able to stay in their school. So they're trying to develop stability for these students. And so in the past, districts would try to negotiate with other districts on the side, trying to decide who was going to pay for the transportation for that student. And that was really cumbersome. I used to have to do that in my previous district, or they would try to coordinate with me if we had a student that resided in my district but wanted to go to their district. We'd have to negotiate that. This interagency provides, they do the coordinating between the districts. There's all kinds of compliance. If you look at that contract, it is pages and pages of contract language. And so it's meeting those Title I requirements. I did speak with our point of contact about this contract. Spend a good time talking with her about how that all works and the coordination of it. I think, one, to keep our district in compliance in this, there's a lot of compliance related not just to transportation, but the overall coordination with foster youth services. So I do recommend that we move forward with this contract and work with that interagency.
Thank you, Mr. Frederickson. Mrs. Lindsay, you have a question?
I do. And looking us over, is this a contract for just this 21-22 year?
Yes, you have to do it annually.
Okay, and my other question is approximately how many students are we doing this with? Enough, I guess, to pay this. I mean, you say it isn't going to cost us any more money, but I mean, it's obviously costing us something. So,
Well, go ahead, Ms. Albert. You can talk about
so Mrs. Lindsay, I can actually do in a Friday update how many are utilizing the transportation and also how many foster youth we have in our district. I don't have that just off the top of my head. And it just comes up from year to year. There'll be, you know, a handful here and there that will need this. And so in the past, either, you know, I would try to negotiate with other districts to say, you know, you were supposed to split the cost according to the law. People have disagreements about that. Child welfare is supposed to help out with that, and trying to coordinate all the different districts together to actually follow the law and do it in a coordinated effort has been difficult. And so this turns it over to the county to be the main point of contact to make sure that child welfare, School of Origin, and School of Residence are all aware of their responsibilities, and who needs to pay for what as far as busing transportation. But I can get you the numbers of how many foster youth we have and how many this year are utilizing transportation and how many utilized it last year.
okay. As a past caseworker, I can tell you that one is my concerns is that where does our liability stand in this? I mean, if we're the responsible party for this child, but yet we're turning it over to the county, and they're making the decision on where the best location for this child is, where do we have any voice in this?
Yeah, actually, they don't determine what's in the best interest of the student. Actually, we have our district social worker who's also considered our foster liaison, and she would facilitate a meeting, a best interest determination meeting. We actually just had one right before the start of this school year. She facilitates that meeting with the School of Origin, the School of Residence, as well as the county foster liaison comes and attends that meeting as well. And as a team, like an IEP team, we make that determination of what's in the best interest of the kid. A lot of times, in this one that happened right before the start of school, was a student from Turlock, and a lot of times we would say that student actually was even further than Turlock. It was even closer to Merced, but that distance isn't necessarily in a kid's best interest. However, this was a student who was a fifth grader, and it had some strong attachments to the school. And so through that conversation, we were able to say that it was in the student's best interest. So we had a large voice in that.
Okay. I guess my concern is, wasn't that what the purpose of the social worker's job that we have in our district? Wasn't that what she was doing?
Yeah, she is facilitating that. But so this facilitates for, this has the county is able to now, they're collecting the information, they're billing the different districts rather than us trying to send a bill to another district that decides that they're not going to pay that. They also are now including child welfare, whereas we were not billing child welfare before because it's supposed to be a 1/3 split. And so to have a county person who is more of that objective person to help make sure that everybody is paying their part rather than me as a Sylvan district representative saying, you know, oh, Turlock, you need to give us our money. You know what I'm saying? It's someone that oversees and helps kind of facilitate, okay, let's all make sure that we're putting in our part and coordinating that.
Yeah, so on that Friday update, could you break that down a little bit so we do see, you know, where the expenses are and, you know, as you said, the 3 areas that should be sharing in the cost expense. That would be helpful for me, at least to visualize.
Sure, so, I'll give some more details.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Lindsay, do you want to make the motion?
Sure.
Okay, the motion has been made by Ms. Lindsay,
Second.
second by Mr. Raw. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Roth,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott. Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, motion carries. All right, very good. Our next item is ratifying the memorandum of understanding with CDPH K through 12 school laboratories. I believe this is what Mr. Frederickson was alluding to earlier, with us being now an educational entity and a laboratory, which should make Ms. Harvey as a scientist very happy. Or, I'm not sure about anyone else, but very
I'm
good.
enjoying it. I paid for a kid to have that degree, so I'm enjoying it.
I don't know if Ms. Papel or.
Yeah, Ms. Papel will be giving you an update if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Before she starts, I just wanted to jump in and thank Ms. Belpel for her work on this and leadership, taking this on. She's done countless trainings, interviews, gathered information and quotes. And as the demand for all of this increases across the state, she's had to really do some intensive follow-up and communication just so we can be where we are. So on behalf of Mr. Frederickson and I, we just want to thank her for her leadership on this in this new venture as a laboratory specialist.
I thought you were going to call it lab rat, but okay.
Yeah, I was going to say they're lab rats.
Thank you, Ms. Papel. Did you want to add anything to that?
I will just add, as Mr. Frederickson said earlier, you know, with the public health order that is going into effect by October 15th, with our, you know, being required to test unvaccinated staff a minimum of once a week, we're working with the CDPH, California Department of Public Health, as they are offering Binax now antigen testing for free. The tests come free, right? And Binax now is a clinical laboratory improvements amendments waived test, a CLIA test. And in order for us to even go down this process or even explore it, we have to enter into an MOU with CDPH so that they can then administer the CLIA waiver to the district. And so we just have to go through the steps, even if this doesn't end up being where we end up. We need to go through these steps so we're in line to get those tests from CDPH. So I can try and answer questions on this.
Are these the tests that they say they are short on? Is this the ones we're talking about?
Yeah, it's a 15-minute test. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, not the response, but like they're back ordered or they don't have enough. Is that this test?
Well, yes, there's two parts to that answer when I say yes. The county has some that they have provided to us so we can do the training and to have on hand to go forward as we move through this process, if we end up going through this process. The state who has had these tests, I've heard that they are on back order too. So again, we just have to explore every option so that when the time comes and we look at all these options, we can make the best recommendation and decision to move forward.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Lindsay?
Yes, Mrs. Papel, I know that being a delegate, I have a little bit more contact across the state. And I know that there is some of the districts that are actually testing are also offering the COVID shots. Are we in that area? Would we be not allowed to do that because we're in the laboratory testing realm? Where does that put us as a district?
So this particular program, getting the CLIA through CDPH, we would not be giving injections or vaccinations. One of the opportunities that we are looking to, that Mr. Frederickson alluded to, we're looking at some other organizations. They do have opportunities for that to be something we would be able to offer. Again, it's all going to come down to, we're trying to get various bids and look at different opportunities so we can see what makes the most sense and meets the needs of our current staff and our community for our students.
Can we do that separately and aligned with it? I mean, does it have to be under the umbrella of one of these organizations? Or can we do that separately?
We could look into what it would mean for us to provide vaccinations or a vaccination clinic. I'm just speaking speculatively. It may be something that we may be able to get information from County Public Health, and Ms. Albert may know more of that if they're able to do vaccination clinics in our community or on one of our campuses. I don't know, Ms. Albert, if you have in your mitigation meetings have any information on that.
In the rollout of vaccinations for education, once they said that people that were involved with education could receive those vaccines, there was discussions about having school districts do that. They were starting to plan and prepare for that. We started getting ready for that. And then public health, I'm not sure if it was from the county or if it was from the state, but that idea got pulled back. And so public health then ended up increasing their vaccination areas. And so we would have to take direction from public health on that.
Really, because I know that as Mr. Frederickson mentioned that the schools that were the K-12s last year did that, set up that program already. And I know that they actually have, in some areas, are sending, when they're testing their students already, they're also providing the option to the parents for the students to be vaccinated. So I just wondered if it's our county or obviously it's our county because this is happening elsewhere. So
right, they would likely have been doing that within coordination with county public health, because we have to have someone like Dr. V write a prescription for us in order to like there's other precautionary medications like the EpiPens and other like emergency medications when they have allergic reactions and those kind of things. You have to have an EMT on site and all that, and it has to be under the direction of a doctor. And so Dr. V would have to issue those orders. So I don't know all the details about it. I know they just started going down the road of that when we were first rolling out the vaccines for education personnel. And like I said, it got pulled back.
Okay, I would just encourage you to keep moving forward with that, because I think we're behind some of the other counties in the state. And, if that does become a practice within the state, we're going to be way behind on getting the ball rolling. So I'm not saying that we'll do it. It's kind of like we're saying, we just want to get our foot in the door and make sure that we're prepared if we should have to do that, or,
Are you offering the booster, Cindy? What are you talking about?
I'm offering the shots. Yes, they are offering the shots to many of the high school athletic programs and things like that. They're providing shots for, the parents obviously have to give an approval before the student can do it, and for the teachers. So we're kind of behind. I know there's some other districts in the state of California that are, or counties in the state of California that are doing things like that.
I think that'd be
I just want to get us in caught up with everybody. You know what I mean? Even if we don't do anything, I'm just saying, let's don't be the last ones on the bus.
And I just wanted to remind us that the purpose of this agenda item is to keep,
I know, I've kind of gone off to the right. I know, I'm sorry, a little tangent, but it's just something that it could run along right as we're doing the looking into these other agencies. It's something that could run parallel.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Ms. Harvey? A motion was made by Ms. Harvey. Keep it for a second. Second by Mrs. Talcott. Roll call, please.
Board Member Harvey.
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay.
Aye.
Board Member Roth.
Aye.
Board Member Talcott.
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Last item on the action agenda is approving the job description for the COVID-19 pandemic coordinator. Mrs. Peterson.
Thank you. So as Mr. Frederickson mentioned earlier, this is a position that we want to have in place and be ready so that we can proactively do what we need to do to be in compliance. And so this is a new position and new job description. Thank you to the surrounding districts who also are helping each other out with some of these things and brought for the board's approval.
Okay, very good.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion's been made by Ms. Harvey.
We have a little discussion on that.
You have a question, Mrs. Lindsay?
No, I do.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mrs. Albers, would this person be under your direction?
Yes,
So they would work, basically take the entire COVID situation and they would be like, almost like a director under that, right?
well, they wouldn't have a director title, but they would coordinate the efforts, communicate with public health, update stand track line lists, communicate with the principals, whatever the need is, and also help with those, whoever else is also working on making those contacts for close contacts and doing that contact training as well. They would kind of help oversee those people as well.
I guess I'm a little confused because I didn't understand that that we were going to be adding more to this area. So I have a little bit of a problem with this one myself, simply by the fact that we have the social worker, we have people that are in place already. I'm just kind of concerned that we're just adding more layers to the district. So I don't know.
Yeah, and again, I think what we're discovering as we start to look at these options, just the level of monitoring and we can't mess up on these things. That's the thing, the level of accountability and responsibility. And on this job description, it's pretty clear that it's a temporary position for this year, because this one for sure aligns directly with the impact of the Delta variant on us and the impact of the requirement of that public order of testing. So I think what's happened is we've discovered with, at the start of the school year, these are all unanticipated things that we're dealing with.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
The duties of which that have been absorbed by administration, right? Okay.
And other support staff, a lot of other support staff. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion made by Ms. Harvey. I'm looking for a second. Second by Mrs. Talcott.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Ra,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. That concludes our action agenda portion of the evening. We'll finish up with our consent agenda. I'm looking for any board members with questions on any of the items on the consent agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay,
Mr.
Mr. Ra, go ahead. You have a question, Mr. Ra?
Yeah, it's a question I brought up in my questions that are listed there, and it's a little awkward for me to do it because maybe the train has already left the station. It's already being done. But in that Friday update, and I believe it's in the warrants also for an expenditure in the cafeteria about the logo for food services. So first of all, in the Friday update, there were several pictures of the logo. I think the logo's fantastic. I have no criticism of the logo at all. My concern though is that, I was in private enterprise for a long time, and, having a logo, marketing and branding your product and your enterprise and your business is a very important thing. But I asked the question, why were there two different logos with two different names? I don't think in private enterprise, we would not do that. It's confusing to the consumer. When they see a logo that doesn't match and the name is different, they're in their own mind, they're not sure if they're buying the same product. in today's marketplace, a lot of companies are copycats. And so what they do is they make similar logos to very prestigious brands, and people, in the hopes that people would be confused in buying this particular product, thinking that they were getting a different product. So why I'm sharing this is that, how do I say this nicely? I don't think it's a good idea to have two separate logos. If that's too strong, I apologize, but we wouldn't do that in private enterprise. We would decide on one logo, stick with that logo, and then brand it out. And there would be a cost associated with the branding it, and that's okay too. I think we have a fantastic food service program. I love how we're going out to other districts. We're getting exterior or external contracts, all of which is something we talked about clear back when we built this kitchen and funded it. And all of that's great. I think it might be a mistake to have two separate logos. I don't know if the train's already left the station on this. If it hasn't, I would highly reconsider using two separate logos. Pick one, they're both fantastic, but I would stick with one, not two. I think it will cause future problems for us.
Mr. Rice, I saw that in the Friday update. I'm not sure where you're pulling that from the consent agenda.
I'm pulling it from the warrants, because under warrants, it's about the funding for the use of those logos, paying for those logos. I think it was to the tune of $80-some hundred in the warrant section. So that's how I'm talking about it in this section, even though it was a Friday update. Again, there are things that come up to us in Friday updates that it's hard for us to talk with fellow board members. I think it's important. So how I'm bringing this one, I actually have 2 or 3 others, but I couldn't find an agenda item to tie them to talk about them in a meeting, but I found this under warrants in the warrant section. So again, I don't have a problem with the spending of the money on the warrant. I just have a concern that we're using 2 separate logos with 2 separate names to market a single entity.
I agree.
So,
well, Mr. Maskey's not here.
I'm happy to share the concern and recommendation with Mr. Maskey.
Yeah, again, I don't have a problem with either name or either logo, but I think we should pick one and pick a lane and go with that lane.
I don't have an issue with it, but I'm happy to talk about it if someone else does.
Well, it would be, Mrs. Miyakawa, it would be no different than if we branded each Boys and Girls Club with a different name at each school site. Wouldn't that confuse people? We call it the Boys and Girls Club, whether you're at Coleman Brown or at Sylvan School or at Somerset, it's all Boys and Girls Club. They don't have their own names and known logos.
Well, we can have Mr. Maskey come here and or just tell us what his
okay,
idea was behind it, and that would work too. Okay, very good. Anything else, Mr. Raw?
So do we need to pull that up for instead of voting to approve it?
It's not a direct consent agenda item. I think it was just
It is under the warrants to pay it.
I don't know. I don't even see it.
What would your suggestion be, Lizette? This falls under your,
I would need to see where Mr. Maskey is exactly in carrying that out. To use your words, the train may have left the station with, where he's at in terms of rolling that out. But that's not to say that, we're held to that forever. That particular expense is already priority process, but does that mean that's what we have to use forever? Not necessarily. So I'm happy to have that discussion and bring these concerns to him.
So it's already been paid for in essence.
Well, we don't know. She's not sure.
Yeah, if it's under the warrants, I would.
Well, I couldn't remember, Lizette, if it was under the paid warrants or the purchase orders. If it's under purchase orders, the train may not have left the station. But if it was under paid, I couldn't remember. When we get warrants, they come in 2 sections: paid warrants and purchase orders. And purchase orders are, you're asking us, can we go and use this vendor and pay this much money and so forth. So it may not have left the station, but if it's underpaid, it probably already did.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
Yes, item F. I guess this would be under Mrs. Albers. Would you give us an update on our Friday update concerning this? Approximately how many times we've used this service, and you know, is it a? I mean, it seems pretty expensive for. I don't know how often we use it, so I guess that's what I'm wondering if it's something that we have to have a yearly contract with, or if we could just purchase it when we need it.
So this is a yearly contract. And we're only being charged for our middle school students, and it's approximately $1.60 per student. But they serve our entire district. I was holding back on this because I know that they've worked with us really, they're very accommodating in supporting our students who are in need of grief support and counseling, whether our contract is right in place or not. But there was a overwhelming request, especially from one school site, about a number of students who are grieving right now. They need these services. I know in the past, now, you know, last year with distance learning, it was a little different. It was a little harder to accommodate because not every student that needed that counseling was super comfortable doing that in a distance learning kind of platform. But the year before, I know that we had multiple grief groups at the different middle schools. We also had elementary students who were met individually with hospice counselors as well. And so, as I mentioned, the middle school administrator as well as some counselors have reached out and said, can we please get this back in place? We're ready to set up groups. We have kids that really need this.
Okay, I just, could you give us a little bit of an update on that on Friday? I am not opposed to it. I just want to know a little more about it.
Okay, any other questions on consent? If not, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Lindsay,
Second.
second by Ms. Harvey. Roll call, please.
Board Member Lindsay,
Aye.
Board Member Harvey,
Aye.
Board Member Roth,
Aye.
Board Member Talcott,
Aye.
Board President Miyakawa.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, the final things before we go back into brief closed session would be our future agenda items. We need to schedule our fall board retreat. That was originally scheduled on the 28th, and I will be out of town. My apologies. So we need to figure out which day would work better. And Mr. Frederickson, I'm not sure I got from you which would be better for you, whether to do it next week on the 21st or on the 12th works better for you.
Let me look here.
And while you're looking, we do need to schedule a special board meeting to take care of the agenda item that was inadvertently left off. It would be a quick meeting, but I need to see availability of board members to possibly take care of that this week if possible. I think on a Thursday is what we were looking at.
Mrs. Miyakawa, could we get that maybe tomorrow, and so that we all have a chance to look at our calendars and see what dates are available? Otherwise, I'm going to have to go out of one of my either my laptop or my phone to get to my agenda, my calendar.
Are you talking about for the fall retreat?
That and for any special board meeting.
Well, we need to have the 24-hour notice to get that one taken care of, and it's a pretty.
Isn't it 48 hour?
Is it 48?
Is it? Where's it? For special board meetings, 48 hours.
Since it's just one item, Jennifer, I would just see when you can get 3 board members together to take care of that.
I have special board meeting on Thursday. I need 24-hour notice is what Velma had told me previously.
Oh, okay.
You know, you can do it at a lunchtime or anytime, being that it's virtual. you could probably find a time when at least 3 of us could do it.
Right, it shouldn't be a long meeting. It's just something that was accidentally left off, so we could not
Yeah, it was
discuss.
a one item.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that there will only be 2 because I have a really stocked week this week. And so I know that Christine and Holly both teach. So that would be, if I can't be the 3rd person there, then it could be a problem.
I'm available at lunchtime on Thursday.
I
And
am
also available
on-
also after
right.
school.
I Thursday, I'm available starting at 12:45. I have a window from 12:45 to 5 p.m. on Thursday.
I have no idea because I can't get to my calendar.
Thursday, I have lunch from 12:20 to 1, and then after 4, I'm available.
Mr. Frederickson, what does your late afternoon look like?
Well, we have negotiations that day, but we would take a lunch. We'd take a lunch. If,
Is
you know,
lunch better for you, or do
Yeah.
you, it would be better? for
lunch
you?
is fine if that works, or after 4 o'clock.
That would work. How about that? How about Thursday, the 16th, sometime around maybe 4:15 or something
Can I
like
see a thumbs up if that works for you?
it works for me.
Thursday?
Well, that thumb
Okay.
doesn't work, but that one does.
Kind of thumbs
All
up.
right, so we are gonna, Mrs. Lindsay, I'm gonna let you get back to me on that, but for right now, we're gonna pencil that in for Thursday at 4:15. Like I said, it should not take long. But for Brown Act reasons, we need to do that. We need to be compliant with that. So I've got,
If Velma could send an invite to us, please.
And
so-
a link, please.
and a link. Is that what
It's
you said?
usually tied to the invite.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All right.
then on that fall board retreat, if October 12th would work,
Okay.
that would be a better date.
Okay, so that gives us time. So would you all look at, for right now, those who have their calendars, how does October 12th look for you?
I'm out of town,
Oh, shoot.
but
Well, darn.
I'm around.
I'm actually in October. I'm out of town on the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th.
My goodness, look at you, Mr. Retired Man. Okay,
Because you do it on a Thursday night?
Could we just, everybody send out when they're available and then maybe we could coordinate
Well,
those up with Velma?
October, just FYI, October is, I have my calendar, it's like almost completely all booked up because, I've been incarcerated for 3 months. And so I figured I was going to be better by the end of September. So we booked multiple trips in October. So October is not going to work. I do have availability on the 28th, on a Thursday, on the 28th of October, I'm back. If you wanted a Thursday.
okay, so I'm gonna get with Velma and we're gonna throw out, we'll do like we've done for other meetings where we throw out 3 dates and we'll see what we.
Yeah, just know if you throw out 3 dates, I'm cool with that, but if they're gonna be in October,
I know.
there's
I've
probably
got
gonna
for
be a
you,
lot
the
of
only date in
no's for me.
October is the 28th. I've got that for you.
Okay.
Okay, all right, very good. We'll do that then. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then our next regular board meeting sounds like, is that the one you're gone for then, the 5th, George? You won't be there for the regular?
So October, so the answer is and I'm assuming I can do this. So I will be in Arizona on the 5th, but if it's a digital board meeting, there's a good chance that I could participate in it. If it's
Okay.
a digital board meeting on the
And that's
5th.
that's TBD, that we have to wait for the governor to approve that.
Right, but
We'll
if
let you
it's in person, I will not be there on the 5th. I am out of state on that day, but if it's digital, I will take my laptop,
I really would be surprised if you didn't extend the time considering where we're at as a state, but
yeah.
we've learned never to bank on anything, huh, Mr. Frederickson? You don't build on shifting sand. That's what we've learned from last year and a half. All right, very good, very good. Well, let's wrap it up for this evening then. I'm gonna end with an adjournment of our open session. Thank you to all those who participated and prepared for this meeting. And we'll go ahead and go back into closed session using the same Google Meet link. Yes, Velma, is that correct? Same link as we used for the previous closed session and finish that up. Have a wonderful evening to all of you and rest well. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.